Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is our Wednesday webinar as part of the Quality Matters 7th edition series. This one will focus on General Standard 8, accessibility and usability. My name is Ryan Randall. I'm from the ITRC. Joining me today, fellow people from the ITRC, include Paul Lynch, Kimberly Tompkinson, Mark Cooper, and Lisa Kidder. The Quality Matters rubric. What is the purpose of the Quality Matters rubric? Who is it for? Excellent question. It is meant for faculty, course designers, and course developers. What is it for? It's meant to provide guidance on how to design and build both online and hybrid courses that meet the Quality Matters specific review standards. These focus on course design rather than on course delivery or your academic content. And how does it apply to our courses at ISU? It's meant to help us all improve the student experience, to increase both student and instructor presence in our courses, and it helps us review the alignment between course content, assignments, and assessments. General Standard 8, that's what we'll be focusing on today. It reads in full, accessibility and usability. The course design reflects a commitment to accessibility and usability for diverse learners. One of the reasons we do this is that reflecting a commitment to ensuring diverse learners can access course content and activities and can easily navigate and interact with course components. So up next, Paul will tell us about Specific Review Standard 8.1.
Great, thank you, Ryan. Specific Review Standard 8.1 states that course navigation facilitates ease of use. Navigation in the course should be consistent, thought out, and efficient. So what should be considered when designing a course to maximize ease of use? We can look at a few things. The first one is consistent layout and design. Consistency in design and layout means that the course's visual elements should remain uniform throughout that course. This helps learners easily recognize and navigate different sections of the course, while at the same time allowing to minimize confusion in regards to finding things in the course. Next, descriptive hyperlinks. Descriptive hyperlinks are links with clear and meaningful names. So instead of a URL or something like a click here, you want to have something that's descriptive, that is informing the students where they will go to if they click on that link. So for example, with the screenshot I have on our slide, if we look at that second bullet point, we can see explore the student interaction lesson. I know that if I'm a student in this course, if I click on that link, I can expect to go to the student interaction lesson activity within that course, and I should arrive there. The next one, working links. One thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our links go to where we intend for them to go. And this includes both internal and external links. Something to be aware of, specifically with external links, that over time, the destination of those links may change. So one thing you may want to do is at the beginning of the semester, before the students have access to your course, go through the links in your course and just double check them, external links and internal links, make sure they work, make sure the content that they lead to is correct. And let's say if an external link does change, you can use a resource like the Wayback Machine or any other kind of internet archiver to go back and find that content and pull it into your course. And then another thing you could consider is, let's say you have a larger overarching project that will be completed throughout the duration of the course. Something you can do is make sure that each part of that project, if it is done in parts, are clearly labeled so that students know when they are working on that part of the project that they are all parts to that whole larger project. Next is Specific Review Standard 8.2. 8.2 states that course navigation facilitates readability. Readability is a measure of how easy it is to read and follow content. What we want to aim for is maximizing usability while minimizing distractions. Specific Review Standard 8.2 can be categorized into two different sections. This first one is content organization and presentation. So one thing we can consider is similar content is grouped together. Grouping similar content together enhances readability by organizing information logically. So this means that related topic or sections should be placed in proximity to each other. And this would make it easier for learners to follow and then comprehend the material. So we can see that with our screenshot we have on the slide. We have content presented in a particular format. It's grouped in a specific way. And if you were to actually go into the course, you would see that not only is it modeled here on the course navigation page, but this module has a learning guide where you would also see the organization modeled on that page. So there we see it grouped in specific ways, and then that grouping modeled in different ways to reinforce that certain pieces of content should be grouped together. Next, heading and body styles are consistent throughout. Consistency in heading and body styles ensures that the formatting of text remains the same throughout the course. This not only enhances visual consistency, but it'll also aid in navigation and comprehension, since learners will be able to rely on those visual cues in the text. And we have consistency in naming conventions. So we want to make sure that content of a specific type retain their naming structure throughout the course, just so there's no confusion. So let's say, for example, we're looking at this image again on my slide. I mentioned earlier that there we have this learning guide. It's titled Module 2 Learning Guide, and then it has the module title, formative and summative assessments on it. So let's say if I were to go to Module 3 and it just said Learning Guide, okay, yeah, I as a student would be like, okay, this is the learning guide, but it breaks that naming convention. We would want to retain it. So what we would want to look for, or hopefully we would see, is like Module 3 followed by the title of that specific module. And then the second way we could look at specific review standard 8.2, or sorry, the second part of it is readability in relationship to the text. So really what we want to do is any kind of editorial errors, so any spelling mistakes, any kind of weird grammatical things that may pop up, we want to make sure we are minimizing that to the best of our ability. And we want to make sure our text is formatted specifically for instructional purposes. So this would be something like, instead of underlining everything in your course when you want to signify something important, that could cause some confusions, because typically when we see something underlined, we want to interact with it. We may think of it as a clickable item or a link. So maybe instead of underlining, you could use bold instead, and then consistently use that bold to convey important information, such as due dates that you may have for assignments in your course. Next, I'm going to pass things off to Mark, who's going to discuss specific review standards 8.3 and 8.4.
Thank you, Paul. Specific Review Standard 8.3 states that the text in your course should be accessible. So what does accessible text look like? Accessible text can be found in the files, documents, slides, learning management system pages, and websites that are in your course. And your learners will benefit from a course with accessible text because it allows them to search keywords, for example. They can also complete activities and interact with their peers without the need for an accommodation. Some examples of accessible text include, but are not limited to, the text is just text. It's not an embedded image. The use of heading styles is done in your course documents, files, and websites, and using a hierarchical order for your heading styles. And that you rely on more than the text color to convey meaning. The text in the course should also consider the use of tables. So tables are used to organize information and data under Specific Review Standard 8.3. So this means having column and row headings, and that the tables are used for summarizing data, not for formatting your page. And you should also use captions, alt text, long descriptions, because they provide context for the tables. And if you have any PDFs in your course, PDFs should contain text, not scanned images, and so that your text is searchable in the PDF. Specific Review Standard 8.4 states that the images in your course are accessible. So what does this mean? Images are found in narrated slide presentations, websites, web pages, documents, all residing within your learning management system. And they can include photographs, charts, graphs, infographics, maps, and many other forms of images. The images should contain content on which the learner might be assessed. And this includes alt text or long descriptions. And when images are accessible, most of your learners will benefit from it. This provides guidance through complex visuals. So next, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, who will talk about Specific Review Standard 8.5.
Great, thanks, Mark. So Specific Review Standard 8.5 reads, video and audio content in the course is accessible. So what that means is that when you use video or audio content, you make that content available to someone who would be able to access that content using a different type of sensory input. So transcripts help people who can't hear things. So a podcast, for instance. Captions similarly would work to put something on a screen if somebody can't hear. So one or the other is intended to help somebody access the information in the sensory input that they don't have available to them, or that might help augment the ways that they normally can hear as well, because these help all learners. These sorts of captions and transcripts provide equivalent and accurate information. And this, as I alluded to briefly, it increases options for most learners, because even those of us who can see and hear will often benefit from the productive repetition of being able to also see captions or also read transcripts. If they're searchable in a transcript, somebody could jump to just the part of a podcast that they remember if they want to use it in a paper. If it's a caption, if they're an English language learner, it might be productive for someone who's fully sighted and fully able to hear to be able to also read the words that are on the screen, even though they can hear them. So in addition to the people who might have accommodations because they have been determined to not have certain types of sensory access, sensory data available to them, providing these things will increase options for most of the learners in your course. Some further examples of Specific Review Standard 8.5. Video that shows the use of equipment should include accurate captions. So somebody who is watching how to clean something in a chemistry lab, even if they can't hear the instructions, they'd be able to read the captions that have appropriate punctuation, and you've checked to make sure that the spelling of everything is correct. The automatically generated captions might not know all of the technical terminology and might not know all of the chemistry terms. So you'll want to make sure that it is accurate, especially if it's something that these learners will be assessed against. A podcast with multiple speakers would include a linked transcript that indicates each speaker, and again, also uses correct punctuation. If you're having a roundtable of people who disagree about a topic, it will be really important for all of your learners to be able to know whose perspective is associated with which actual person who's speaking. It's a little bit easier to tell who's the questioner and who's the responder if it's just a simple two-person interview, but especially if you're including diverse perspectives on a topic of plenary or some sort of roundtable, it's really crucial for all learners to again be able to associate the speaker with the viewpoint as communicated through the words, and also for those words to have appropriate punctuation. Is it a question? Is it emphatic with an exclamation point, or is it just a simple period? Those things will help control how assistive technology pronounces it. So it does indeed help your learners who use assistive technology understand what's intended. And third, if a video is demonstrating a procedure, but it doesn't have audio narration, that should still include an audio description or a transcript that details the steps. So if it's just a silent video of how to clean something, if it doesn't have that information presented for somebody who doesn't have sight available to them, they still need the equivalent information. So they still need to know this is how to clean a beaker. And so it should be narrated either in that same video in an audio track, or you can provide a transcript that fully details the steps. So make sure that the equivalent content is available to all of your learners. And again, these things often can be productively redundant for people who you might not anticipate just by looking or talking to them would need that extra productive redundancy. Next, Mark will again tell us about specific review standard. Kim. Up next, Kim will tell us about specific review standard 8.5.
8.6. Thanks, Ryan. Specific review standard 8.6 simply reads that course multimedia facilitates ease of use. And multimedia is one way to present and communicate course content or course feedback to learners. For example, it might be in the form of images or audio clips that you might use. We even see animations and often videos in courses and other interactive components that might relate to your content or your course. The important thing is for all of these items or elements to be intelligible and interoperable across devices. So in order for this specific review standard to be met, course multimedia must be easy to view, to operate, and to interpret. So for example, if a user is using a PC or a Mac, they should still be able to have a similar experience regardless of the machine that they have chosen to use. And now let's take a look at some examples that we might see in courses. So for example, graphics and animations that will enhance the instruction shouldn't be distracting, and they should enhance the instruction. They might illustrate different ideas and be very clear to the learner. And images should be appropriately sized and should be able to be viewed in their entirety without scrolling. And then when audio is used, the quality of the audio should be clear and discernible. And a video that is used in a course should be able to be resized and have sufficient resolution for comprehension. And then longer videos that are maybe more than 15 to 20 minutes can be broken into shorter segments and also be searchable. So videos that are about 20 minutes long, you might consider breaking those down into 3 different segments that are approximately 7 minutes each. And then some additional examples. When you're using presentations, movement through the presentations should be able to be controlled by the user. And then videos should stream smoothly and without frequent interruptions. If a video requires a high bandwidth, it should be communicated to learners that will be needed in order for them to view the video. And then some videos must be of high quality for the content to be understood. For example, a video that demonstrates sign language in which learners need to be able to accurately discern hand shapes and movement will need to be of a higher quality so users can see what is happening in the video. And then finally, if there are browser limitations or requirements, then the recommendations for which browsers to use should be communicated to the learners, and access to those browsers or other software should be provided. And next, Lisa is going to talk to us about specific review standard 8.7.
Thank you, Kim. Specific review standard 8.7 Specific Review Standard 8.7 talks about the vendor accessibility statements and that they're provided for the technologies used in the course. As you select technologies, accessibility needs to be something that's considered. Each of the vendors that provides technology should have some sort of accessibility statement associated with it so that you and your users understand how and in what ways those technologies are accessible. For the ISU supported technologies on the ITRC website, you can find the accessibility policies for the technologies that we support. So here we have Moodle, Google, Zoom, and Pressbooks, and you can see that there is a link to the accessibility policy related to that tool. When you select other tools, it is important for you to find the accessibility statement or the policy of those technologies. And these can come in different forms. They can look like this, where you list standards and you can see section 508 is highlighted. You can see WCAG 2.1, that's WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. They can connect to standards like that. They can also be more global and holistic in nature and describe how it is that the technologies are striving to support accessibility. Most technologies are not 100% accessible. So it's important to make sure that you understand how they're accessible so that you can minimize the barriers in your course. There is an item called a VPAT that's listed in the annotations for Specific Review Standard 8.7. VPAT stands for the Vendor Product Accessibility Template. And this is a template that was created to help organizations conform to Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. They've also been expanded and revised so that they meet European standards and the worldwide standards of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG. Please note that when a vendor or a technology has a VPAT, it does not guarantee that they are accessible. It simply describes how their tool is accessible or not accessible. It does not certify that technology is accessible. To give you some background and things to look for, ISU's Electronic Information Technology Accessibility Policy states that our goal is to strive for WCAG 2.0 AA. So if you are looking at a VPAT or if you are looking at some of those standards, those are the things that we are striving to accomplish here at ISU. And as always, if you have a struggle looking for policies for tools, we can help you with that one. To learn more about Quality Plus, which is our program to help you make quality courses here at ISU, you can scan this QR code. We focus on helping you with your skills, knowledge, abilities in online teaching and in the course design or developing the online courses. The goal is that online courses and other types of courses are quality that we put out there. You can additionally find more information, how-to, step-by-step documents in the Tiger Tracks articles, the knowledge base. We also save all of these videos and put them on the ITRC video library, which you can access through the link here or using the QR code. We're happy to meet with you in person, in Zoom. You can reach out to us at the email and phone number listed. We have people located in both Pocatello and in Meridian. Pay attention to future Wednesday webinars. Watch for the Idaho State Today and the events calendar, and check out more exciting things to help you improve your online learning and your course design.